So recently, a lot of my clients who own lead generation companies have been asking me how they can get their clients more predictable and consistent results, because some of their clients are getting really good results and some of their clients are not getting any results at all. In this video, I'm going to give you the frameworks that I use to basically tweak their model so that they can consistently get their clients results and obviously be able to scale because of that, right? Just for some context, I own an outbound consulting agency that in the last 3 months did over $220,000. So let's jump into this. So the first thing that I look at when I go about solving these problems is thinking about the problem as a system, right? So everything in business and just in general is all based on cause and effect, right? So the effect that we want is for a client to get a good result, right? To get them a certain amount of like clients or jobs or leads or whatever, right? And then obviously there's inputs that are done to achieve that output, right? So when someone says they're getting inconsistent results, what that actually means is there is an inconsistency in the input side. Something that they are doing for each of their clients is different than, like for the clients that are getting worse results, is different than the clients that are getting best results. Because if everything in isolation, if you were doing the exact same thing with the exact same offer to the exact same kind of person, if you were doing that side by side, you would get the same output, right? So obviously when your clients are getting different outputs, varying outputs, you're gonna have probably varying inputs on your side, right? So there's a few kind of stems of this issue that can actually cause this, right? So in most cases, the reason why this happens is because you have multiple different niches, right? And not even just necessarily multiple different niches, but multiple different niches within niches, right? So I had one client, for example, who was targeting like coaches and consultants, right? But the thing with that is it's a very broad niche. So he was having like high-level executive coaches, sales consultants, like career mindset coaches, and then all these like health and wellness coaches, and it's all these different types of offers, right? So even if it's in one niche, the offer and the value proposition that he was trying to, push was very, very different. So the ones, what we found when we looked at the clients, which ones were getting better results, the ones that were more B2B, right? Like the sales consulting client and like the executive client, they were getting better results than like these mindset and these health coaches, right? So the actual offer was structured differently, right? So that's kind of the main thing. So the solution obviously to that is there's kind of two things you can do. I prefer one over the other, which is what I told my client to do, but you can really do both of these. Number one is you can basically make their offer for them. So this is kind of something that we do, is we go into our client's company, we look at, okay, what are you doing right now? What are the types of channels that you're using to reach out to clients? What type of clients specifically do you want to attract the most? How can we make the offer in a more compelling way so that we can get more people from cold traffic, right? And that's because if you're generating leads, like you're generating it from cold traffic. So you need to build an offer and structure it in that way. That's the one that I least prefer if you actually have an agency, because obviously your job is you just want to do as much service as possible because that's where you make your money. Obviously where we kind of work with our clients, it's something that we kind of have more of the bandwidth to be able to do that, right? The second one is better, obviously, if you own an agency, is you just want to be more specific with the type of people that you work with, right? So if, for example, you're targeting roofers, you can run the same offer for every single roofer in multiple different locations. So the only variable on the input side is the actual location, which has a significantly less impact than, let's say, if you were to do a roofer offer and then like a gym offer. You might only know how to do run one of those and get leads for one of those types of offers. And then when you try to do both, you have so many different variables that are gonna, affect the output that you actually get for the client that you're basically having to solve a new problem every single time. But when you can figure out, if I use this offer, if I target this demographic, in this radius, again, it depends on how you're actually generating these leads, if it's outbound, if it's through ads, whatever. If you have all of the inputs that all of the things that you need to do the same for every single client, and you just put a new client in here with a new amount of spend or a new, type of area that you're targeting, then you can predictably get the same results because all of your inputs are the same. This is where it becomes more challenging when you are doing, when you're trying to work with multiple different niches. Now, some people, for example, don't have this issue, and they're just like these great marketers that get results for multiple different types of niches, right? And then what happens with them is they get to around 20 to 25 to 30K a month, depending on their price point. Sometimes it's lower if they're really underpriced. And then what ends up happening is they can't scale. And the reason why is because what ends up happening is in order to scale, they need to expand beyond their current capacity as a marketer. And then they need to, and then at that point, they're probably already like 50, 60, 70% margins, right? And then what they need to do is they need to hire someone to be able to run, like actually do the service for that type of offer, right? And the problem with that is if you want to get someone who's as good as you at advertising, who can run good offers for all these different types of niches, then basically you have to pay a lot of money to get those types of people, right? Or the alternative, and obviously if you're only making, let's say 15K a month, after you, like 15K a month profit, you're gonna have to pay like basically all your profit to get someone who can do that, which is why you have to charge extremely high ticket if you're doing like boutique, like different kind of, not really, like basically a new, I don't know why I'm blanking on this word, but if you're, working with multiple different niches, right? If you're doing a custom service for every single person, then you have to charge significantly more. The alternative route is you can hire someone who has less experience, but if you only have to show them how to do these single inputs every single time, like how to run one specific kind of like marketing campaign, it's a lot easier. You can pay them a lot less, and it's a lot easier to train that person to the point where they can actually take over for maybe like $4 or $5 grand a month, and then you can continue to scale. And that's kind of the trap that a lot of people fall into, right? So if the thought experiment is this, if your clients are getting different results, what you have to look at is you have to look at the variables that are different, right? So if you're doing a cold email campaign, for example, the email infrastructure is probably going to be the same. The difference is going to be your script and the list, right? So if you're generating leads for, even let's say you're working in the, let's say you're working in the dental niche, right? For example, if you are, scraping like if you're trying to target a specific type of dentist, right? They might have let's say you're working with people who work with dentists, right? And you're trying to deliver results to them for cold email, right? If you are, scraping a list of dentists and then your other client has he's trying to target, I don't know, like doctors or something, you're scraping a completely different list. And then what's going to happen is you're going to try and use the same, like a similar copy, but you have a different variable in them. So those two types of clients might get different results. But if you are targeting a niche that is similar, right, and you're just repeating the same thing, if you have this is what a productized offer is. If you're doing the same thing, if you're putting the same inputs for the same type of person, like the same type of client, if you do the same thing for the same type of client, you're going to get them the same result. And that's how these larger businesses that are, that they're able to scale, is because they have these SOPs in place, where if they do the same thing for the same type of person, they can get the same result. Obviously, once you get to a certain point, you have to expand beyond that, and then you just have to pay people a shit ton of money. But obviously, if you're watching this video, you're probably sub 100K a month, and you're looking for a more efficient way to scale. So hopefully that helps. If you want help from me scaling your own agency, you can click the link in the description or whatever. But if not, I'll see you guys in the next one.